Because this is the thing, everyone's like, so what's the thing that ties everybody together at Product Earth? And I guess like the layman would say, oh, they all smoke weed. Well, sure, I don't think everyone does. Most people do. But actually, it's the mindset. It's the not going to follow the status quo. I want to think differently. I'm not going to just believe something because you've told me. And so actually it's the culture behind it. The culture is what ties everyone together. And the culture of a person that consumes natural medicines is so broad and diverse. When you start thinking of it like that, you can put loads of cool experiences on.
Product Earth Preview. We catch up with Matthew Clifton, CEO of Product Earth. He tells us more about the challenges of running the UK's biggest wellness, plant medicine and nootropics event, and gives us a flavour of what to expect at this year's show. Hello and welcome to the Lobsterpot podcast. I'm Dave Barton and we have Jamie Bonthron here. How you doing, Jamie? You enjoying the summer?
You know, I am such a miserable shit that I am absolutely loving it. I love that it's grey and that everyone else is unhappy. And I can just be honest about that, right? I feel like we're in good company. I feel like Matt is not going to judge me too much for taking pleasure in other people being upset about the weather.
That's it. Well, he's a fellow Brit and he lives here as well. So he has an appreciation for the misery that is the UK weather, or the pleasure that you derive from everyone else being miserable. But anyway, we have Matthew Clifton, who is the CEO of a show you may have heard of here in the UK called Product Earth even. Welcome to the show, Matt. How you doing?
I am amazing. Thank you. Great to be here. Really appreciate you having me on the show.
Yeah, not at all. And so, you know, it's a kind of big year for you guys. You're sort of up in your game at Product Earth. And so you tell me, so what we're going to see? I mean, we'll start off, just for those that don't know, a little bit of a potted sort of history of Product Earth and what you guys do.
A potted history, a good use of the word pot. So it all kicks off kind of in 2015 down in Bournemouth. And we kind of bumbled around a few different venues and things like that. And we tried like a city location. That was Birmingham. That was not good. As you can imagine, the show can draw a fair amount of attention, and doing that in the middle of a city centre probably isn't the best idea. And actually what we realised, one of the secret bits of sauce for Product Earth is the camping experience. So we did need to find a venue which allowed for camping. And so we've ended up, actually it was just when I joined, that in 2019, our first show was at the National Agricultural Event Centre up in Kenilworth, beautiful Kenilworth. And it really is beautiful. I mean, it's close to Coventry, but, you know, out of the countryside, it's good. And because it's like a privately owned piece of land, we're left alone. And we've worked with the same venue now for years and years and years on end. So they know what to expect from the show. We work very closely with them and it works. It's nice to have infrastructure, I have to say, you know, having toilets.
I guess it helps, doesn't it? It helps kind of keep things on an even keel. But
it does. I do like the greenery outside. So when you kind of go out to the after dark part and it's a bit more of a music festival in the evening, it is nice to have these rolling hills and stuff like that. But also we do have big brands and lighting companies, and you can't do that off a little Jenny out in a field. It has to be powered, you know, properly. So yeah, absolutely love our venue. We actually had our first warning this year that we may run out of camping space. I think we're okay this year, but it's a thing that we need to think about for the future. So they've got 8+2 running nearby and ruining all the greenery. But yeah, that's a fun expansion problem.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have, isn't it? So how many people did you have last year, and how many are you anticipating this year are going to turn up?
So hard to tell. Don't know if you've ever run events, but if you run a cannabis event or a natural medicines event, as we now refer to ourselves, everyone buys their tickets at the last minute, and it is painful. So we are up from last year, but from 2021 we had 3,000. Then we had 4,500 in 2022, and that growth, so 50% in a pandemic, I think was a little bit unprecedented. And you know, it seems relevant we use the word unprecedented when referencing a pandemic, because that word was overused a lot. This year, I think there's every possibility we'll see another 50% coming to the show. We're up this year already to the day. I was just looking at the numbers and they are looking very, very promising indeed. So we could get 6,000, 7,000 people.
Wow.
It's
So
a
it's really,
serious call.
yeah.
It's about the population of Kenilworth, isn't it? It's
Yeah, you kind of worth dreads it when everyone turns up with like loud music playing. It's like, guys, just be respectful. But yeah, it's fantastic to see that amount of people in a nice, safe space enjoying themselves.
And do you think that you mentioned that you now refer to yourself slightly differently to how you did maybe a few years ago? Can you talk a little bit about how that evolution has occurred and what sort of prompted it, and where it's headed?
There's a few different kind of strings to this, but I guess one of the things that I noticed, I mean, I smoke a lot of weed. Maybe not so much. It's more like frequently rather than the volumes. Now I see what some people smoke, but I smoke weed every single day, and obviously I talk to people about weed every single cannabis. I don't know why I'm saying weed, cannabis every single day, and that's the problem. Everyone talks. Oh, sorry, my Wi-Fi is a bit jumpy being out in the countryside. Everyone that consumes cannabis talks to people that consume cannabis about cannabis all the time, and it doesn't really move anything forwards. You're just speaking in an echo chamber, and everyone's like, yeah, no, I agree, so now what? And I think really it kind of almost compounds the stigma a little bit, because you're just talking about cannabis and why everything's unfair, and it is unfair. Why the hell am I not allowed to grow a plant and consume it? I don't see how that's impacting anybody. So I've started, I wax lyrical about these guys, London Nootropics. I don't know if you guys are onto the nootropic train yet, but you should get on it fast. I mean, I've run a 7.5K this morning after I had my, which one did I have? Flow, which I think is Lion's Mane this morning, in a nice cup of coffee. Absolutely incredible stuff. It's not like, I mean, CBD, whenever I talk about CBD and people are like, oh, is it going to get me high? I'm always like, it's not what you feel, it's what you don't feel. It takes away the aches and the pains and the anxiety and things like that. Nootropics, you feel it. Your body does something and suddenly you're kind of energized and all the rest of it. Now, why is that okay for me to essentially medicate with functional mushrooms, but it's not to use cannabis? Aside from the law, why is that any different? And I think when you start to open people's minds and draw these kind of comparisons with things that they think are completely okay, you start to break down walls. And so that is one of the reasons we're moving far more into natural medicines. And then when you think about what natural medicines are, the sun is a natural medicine. Food is a natural medicine. Mushrooms are a natural medicine. And that's why we don't say plant-based medicines as well, because obviously mushrooms ain't plants. So that's the direction we're moving in. I'm a marketer by trade, so let's be honest, it's much easier to talk about natural medicines than it is about cannabis. So that's another reason why we have kind of had this change of positioning to the show. We will never forget our roots. Our roots are deeply, deeply in cannabis, but our heart and soul and passion in the future is very much in natural medicines more broadly.
So do you see it as a sort of commercial play? I mean, in the sense that it's easy to have conversations with people, and it's easy to kind of sort of going through the wellness angle to kind of encourage people to go, oh, hang on, oh, right, cannabis is part of this. Oh, I hadn't really thought about that. Do you know what I mean? And if people are kind of more open, their minds are open to other things, it's like, if you introduce it in that context, there's a lot more, you reduce that stigma.
Absolutely. And I think legalization's helped. So now people are like, oh, you can get prescribed cannabis. I mean, look, medical cannabis is broken. And actually, that's a great function of the show, is to kind of create more awareness and connect people with a legal route to cannabis. But that does help people understand, actually, this does have medicinal properties. They may not be aware of how long it's been used for as a medicine. But yes, that definitely helps kind of like break down that stigma for sure. And I think, I mean, I'm seeing, I can't tell if it's just because I'm getting old, 42 now, and I just think
so old, yes.
I don't feel old.
No, well, you know, I'm beating you there, so it's all good. I can say it's fine.
But I think for me, I mean, look, I've tumbled with the big boys, and it used to be, how much can I consume of anything and still keep partying, still keep standing? And you just feel dreadful for days afterwards. And now I'm more like, how can I be the best version of myself every single day? You know, what various kind of plants can I consume? And, you know, all these natural medicines and remedies and things like that. I mean, I've been slathering CBD balm all over my shins this morning because of the run. I get shin splints all the time. And that's just part of my kind of routine for wellness. And I liken it to my wife's dressing table upstairs, which has more potions on it than, you know, a cabinet in Boots. But she has a wonderful beauty regime, which is entirely unique to her. She will be influenced normally by influencers, and buy their products and everything like that. But the combination of them is unique to her. And as we all know, our endocannabinoid system is unique as a fingerprint. And so our wellness regime should be completely unique to us. And when people start to realize that they're kind of the CEO or the managing director of their own wellness regime, interesting things start to happen, because people take more care of themselves and they are exploring these kind of uncharted areas of natural medicines and things like that. So yes, I'm very, very excited about the way things are going. I own a cocktail bar in London as well, and the amount of people that are now coming in looking for non-alcoholic drinks, it's not too bad because the margins are pretty much the same. They're still really expensive, but it's interesting to see that people are going to a cocktail bar, which is kind of a den of debauchery, and they're looking to not have an alcoholic beverage. They are looking at their mocktails and their...
Well, you go to some places, you're seeing a lot more kind of CBD infused. You're seeing all the kind of, the trips, the good rays and things like that. And it's like, again, people are starting to see the benefit of that and saying, oh, this is part of that. Or again, when you start to see things like CBD patches in like Lloyd's Pharmacy, it starts to get that kind of what I call, it passes the sort of mum test. If my mum will see it and go, oh, CBD, that's cannabis, but it's not the bit that gets you high. That's like a threshold that's been crossed. That's like, actually, now you understand that there's no going back, and you can see that there's a benefit medicinally or therapeutically.
I couldn't agree more. And actually, the patches themselves are one of my favorite ways of taking CBD. When I had COVID, one of the times I had COVID, God, my lower back pain was out of this world. Those patches just made it disappear. So that was really, really nice. I use those from time to time, depending on how much I'm aching, to be honest.
Again, it's that whole idea again coming into, people are a lot more conscious of what they're putting into or onto their bodies, and feeling like, and again, there probably is some sort of pandemic reaction to like, how do I feel the best version of myself? And again, I've always felt that was perhaps something more people in North America are a bit more cognizant of, and, it's more sort of embedded in the culture to feel optimum, whereas we're just kind of, as Brits, like, yeah, I feel a bit shit, so I'll just, take a couple of days off, sort of, rather than how do I solve this? Yeah. Or how do I prevent this? And I feel like that is more of a conversation that's happening among, peers and, friends, colleagues and things like that. And it's like, well, fuck, we really should. We really do have a responsibility.
Yeah, I saw a Joe Rogan podcast, was it last night, possibly, and he was kind of just talking about how he saw he wasn't drinking that night, and he saw one of his friends just get completely obliterated, couldn't get a sentence out, and he's just like, it just made me think, I don't want to ever drink again. Like, that's not a good look. It's like, if you're at a party with all your friends and they're all doing coke and you're kind of looking at them, it's like, do you know what you look like? Because you look like an absolute knob.
And enjoy the next 2 days.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's just when you find yourself at 3 a.m. sort of like, you've had a little smoke or something, a little drink, and you're like, do you know what, I'm done, and everyone has just like, do you know what, I'm just going to pass, just because this is not for me. This is not the thing.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be going out for a run in the morning. You guys are still going to be up and feeling absolutely dreadful, right?
That's it. But, at least you're having fun now, sort of thing.
Yeah. My Rob, our creative director, he always talks about it like, when you're doing those things, you're only borrowing time from the days ahead. That's all it is. You're not creating more fun. You're just borrowing time, which I think is an interesting way of looking at it.
Yeah, it's opportunity cost, isn't it?
Opportunity cost indeed.
Very much how it goes. And just goodbye Friday night. Oh, goodbye weekend. Yeah. Hello, extremely anxious Monday. That's a deeply unpleasant experience. No, I think there's something to be said about that optimum and people wanting to feel better and getting more from things. I mean, do you see this as a trend more broadly, kind of looking at events? I presume you go to other shows, both in the industry and probably outside as well. Is it something you see others are doing? Do you think it's a trick some are missing?
I think it's a trick some are missing. I think, to be honest, like the cannabis community, that word gets bandied about and weaponized far too much. It's dangerous me saying that on this podcast, isn't it? But it's true. It is bandied around and weaponized too much.
Yeah, I think so.
There's different cohorts, really. There's the balaclava wearing community. I am not part of that. I do not want to be part of that. Even at Cannabis Europa, seeing all these kind of business people coming together. These aren't big pharmaceutical companies. These are small business owners trying to get ahead, trying to work with each other. That's me. That's me, and then all my friends that like to consume various plant-based and natural medicines. That's my community. So there are still a contingent who are gang, you know, and they're posturing and flexing and all of that nonsense. I mean, who says that wearing a balaclava is cool? Like, where does that come from? You look like an idiot. And also, by the way, if you want to spot the criminal, they're wearing a balaclava. So if you're holding your person, you're not. You're literally saying, "Come and arrest me." So yes, that's the problem with some shows that do cater for that market. That's not what I'm interested in. The more mainstream ones, Secret Garden Party was back, right? And Glasgow, and they're all wellness orientated now, and they're kind of picking up on this trend. I don't know the legitimacy of what they're doing. It's like saying, hey, we've got CBD. Well, there's a lot of crap CBD out there. So do you actually have good products? So I think, you know, that's where Product Earth kind of stands aside from the large music festivals, because we do offer legitimacy. The products that are at the show are all very, very high quality. And I think just by having a stand there legitimizes your business. It's like, you're ready to go and face the Product Earth crowd. That means you've got a good product, because you'll get called out if you don't. So yeah.
But you've got lots of exciting things. I mean, activities and sort of things happening this year. Do you want to give us a bit of a preview on some of that?
Yeah, definitely. So cause this is the thing. Everyone's like, so what's the thing that ties everybody together at Product Earth? And I guess like the layman would say, oh, they all smoke weed. Well, sure. I don't think everyone does. Most people do. But actually it's the mindset. It's the not going to follow the status quo. I want to think differently. I'm not going to just believe something because you've told me. And so actually it's the culture behind it. The culture is what ties everyone together. And the culture of a person that consumes natural medicines is so broad and diverse. When you start thinking of it like that, you can put loads of cool experiences on. So we reference ourselves at the moment as kind of like a natural medicine experience, and that's what you get at Product Earth. So we have to wake up the right way. So as you wake up in the morning, there are 3 things that you can do. You can go and do cannabis yoga, obviously, if you have a prescription. Otherwise, it's just yoga, which is still great. I'm not very bendy. My wife does all the yoga. I tend to do more running and stuff like that. But if you like it, go for it. The sound baths that we had last year, that was just wall to wall packed in there. I have a lovely lady called Maureen who comes up, and she's got all these gongs and she's making sounds. When people come out, you kind of almost need to put your arm around them and make sure they're all right, because they're so almost in like a trance-like state. And it's a great way to start the day. And then the new one this year, the 3rd one, is XL Nutrition are coming to do a mushroom oil breath work.
Okay. Those words together, I understand what they mean individually, but when you put them together, what
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like walking into the unknown here. But so it's
awesome.
It's not psychedelic mushrooms, because that's illegal. We're a fully legal show, but it will be working with functional mushrooms and things like that. So I guess the ordering of it is you're kind of like relaxing and everything like that, and then you're coming out of your trance from the sound bath, and then suddenly, you know, your brain function is increasing and you just feel fantastic and you've got energy for the whole day. Nice bit of clarity, off to the main show to learn and be inspired and all these wonderful things. So that's what happens when you wake up. Some people would say that's already a show in its own right.
That's a pretty good start.
I'm going to say, you know, it's better than emptying the dishwasher and making some, you know, Nescafe in it. So you know.
That's the truth. And then in the main show, we have glass blowing, regular feature. Everybody loves the glass blowing. Obviously, there's a lot of glass products on show. Puffco, they're coming in as the sponsor of the Glass Zone. If you want to get something custom made for your Puffco, you can have it done at Product Earth. So that's a really nice feature. Food demos. So we started this last year. The person that opened it was amazing, William Fugard. And what he did was he spoke to people about gut health. And so he made a sourdough loaf, and he was explaining why everyone has all these allergies to bread and everything like that these days. Made a sourdough loaf. Then he taught us how to make a fermented sauerkraut. I've got one fermenting right now. Changed my life. And then also kind of fermenting chili sauces. Game changer.
Hello.
They just taste better. There's no doubt about it. So that's going on. Blazy Susan, who's one of our sponsors, are doing a rolling competition this year. So fastest fingers, let's see what you got. And then you kind of move. Oh, and our seminar zone. Don't forget the seminar zone. It's kind of a big deal. So we're now CPD accredited. So we are a globally recognized educational platform. If you want a job in the industry, if you are collecting CPD points, you will be better than other people. So just by turning up and listening to the experts talk, you will further yourself. We've got an MP turning up to debate Simper and Guy Coxall, and possibly, no, I shouldn't announce it just in case we don't get him, but another similar caliber to an MP coming along to do that debate. Guy's going to be talking about some of the cases he's working on and forwarding the work against prohibition, which is really exciting. We've got doctors, science fairs doing all the psychedelic content. We have First Wednesdays coming, Vault Fasts are coming. And then after all of this fun stuff, and a lesson in microscopy, which, how cool is that? Someone's coming over from Canada, Urbanistic, just give him a shout out. And he's going to teach us about good flour and bad flour and how you use the microscope to understand what you've got. And harm prevention is really important. Look, I want everyone to have legal access. Whilst you can't, if you don't want to get a prescription, I think it's important understanding what you are consuming. So that's going to be really interesting. Once we get through all of those, on the Sunday, we have Grow Sunday. Now, a lot of what we do is reacting to something that's happening in the real world. The pandemic shone a light on fragile supply chains and overly processed food, which is essentially toxic. So we want to reconnect people with the food that they're consuming and teach them how to do cool stuff and grow nice things, which then ties in nicely with the food demos, and we can go and learn recipes. So we're going to kick out all the chairs, put some tables in, and we're going to have actual workshops. So build a hydroponic setup, work with mycelium, make your own living soil. So people are quite literally getting their hands dirty, learning whilst they're doing it, having some fun. There's a big focus on this, not only because of the reasons that I've mentioned, but also the hydroponic industry just needs a little bit of help, and they've got their own stigma to deal with. And I think that Product Earth, we can help break that stigma down. We kind of measure our success on the success of the people that we work with. And that is something that we want to constantly move forward. So really excited about that. And then you go out to the urban zone. Don't like the name urban zone for what it's worth. I think that in itself has certain connotations, but it's called the urban zone at the moment. We've got a BMX invitational, got BMX riders from around the world coming in. It's always the scary part of the show for me. I'm thinking, does my insurance cover this? As someone's like flying through the air. And the ramps seem to get bigger each year. Pretty sign off on that, but it is exciting to watch. There'll be DJs out there as well. The food, I like to think we have the best food out of any festival in the entire country. We've worked on it for years and it is sublime. So I guess for product, and then evening music as well. We've got a local reggae band, got my pal Shabba coming down with the Higher Level Boys to do an MC collective. We've got a gaming tent. We've got a comedy tent. We're going to play some films and documentaries that people are producing that we want to help out as well. And a shisha lounge, which everybody loves. So all of that is going on at Product Earth. It is just a whole weekend of fun. And then Sunday evening, everyone packs up and goes home and hopefully has had an amazing time. But I guess it's fair to say, no matter who you are and what you're going to the show for, you can have a completely different experience, but equally as enjoyable as the person next to you. And there's this lovely vibe of togetherness and
and I guess at the same time, finding your own thing and, exploring and,
Absolutely.
seeing what works for you. And I think, again, that just reflects the kind of broader kind of sense about, like you say, natural medicine. Everyone's different. Everyone has their own thing. But if you've got those kind of opportunities for people to just to inspire them to kind of find out more, it's just...
We call them the Canna Curious.
The Canna Curious.
And you've got your Canna Curious. And they want to know where the safe products are. And, they want to know accurate information, not the misinformation that's just like shouted over the internet on a daily basis. And Product Earth delivers that every single year.
Very, very cool. And just to wrap up, so it's going to be, was it August 15th?
18th to the 20th.
18th to the 20th. That's right. So
I'll be there from the 15th.
I've just got that in my head because that's when I come back from holiday. Not that I'm going to mention it anymore because I keep mentioning it. But 18th. And
What's
it's what is holiday exactly?
That's a great question, Matt. I'm glad you asked.
I'm gonna find out. It's been a while. But no, so that's awesome. And it's Kenilworth near Coventry.
Kenilworth near Coventry, 18th to the 20th. And I'll tell you what, I'll give you guys a link so for all your followers, they can get 10% off tickets.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Perfect. Well, we're going to be there, so we look forward to seeing you there in person. And no, it sounds fantastic. And yeah, everyone, check it out. Come to Product Earth, see what it's about, support the UK industry.
There you go.
We are all over it. So thank you so much, Matt. It's been great to chat with you, and we look forward to meeting you soon.
Thank you. I appreciate you both.
Cheers, Matt.
Cheers. All the best.